Hi students, this is Unit 2, Notes 9, Trails West. This can be found on page 13 of your packet, and you will need a pencil, a highlighter, and a purple colored pencil to complete this activity today. In 1819, Oregon was claimed by Russia, Spain, Great Britain, and the United States. Lewis and Clark had made their way to the Oregon coast in 1806 when they explored the Louisiana Territory. So there were 4 countries that were claiming Oregon country. Okay? Eventually, Russia and Spain backed out of their claims, which led the United States and Britain to determine what to do. James K. Polk ran for president in 1844 with a campaign promise to add Oregon country to the United States. On page 13 of your packet in your important people, James K. Polk was the president who campaigned for election promising to gain Oregon. After explorer and adventurer Jedediah Smith discovered an easier passage through the Rocky Mountains, American settlers began to travel to Oregon Territory. At first, most were missionaries who wanted to bring Christianity to the native people. Word got back east that the region was a pioneer's paradise, and Oregon fever hit. Polk decided not to risk going to war over Oregon country, and he worked out a compromise treaty in 1846 to split the territory with Britain at the 49th parallel. So they split it here. So all of this northern part of Oregon country became Britain's, and the purple part became ours. Explorers and pioneers started to head west in large numbers. Farmers crossed the plains to begin homesteads. Later, the government would incentivize settling west by offering 160 acres of rich farmland in the west for people who were willing to take the journey and put in the work to plow and farm the land. So, one of your important vocabulary words is homestead. And you guys learned the Homestead Act last year too, so hopefully this is a little familiar to you. A homestead is 160 acres of farmland that were given to people as an incentive to help settle the West. Farmland incentive to settle the West is what you're highlighting there. In the center of your page, you have a map and you have Oregon country. When did we gain it? 1846. How? We compromised with Britain. And we settled for half to avoid going to war. We didn't want to fight again, so compromise it was. And then please color your map in the middle of the page, color Oregon purple. Okay, the other thing we want to do is talk about the trails. Okay. Most settlers heading west followed the Oregon Trail. This route stretched over 2,000 miles from Independence, Missouri to Portland, Oregon. The travelers set out in spring with the urgency to reach their destinations without getting caught in the harsh Rocky Mountains during the winter. Pioneers left in caravans to travel together for protection. More than 50,000 people traveled the Oregon Trail between 1840 and 1860, lured by the promise of fertile farmland and rich natural resources. Okay, so you guys have a trail on the bottom. I want you guys to write in the first box Oregon Trail, which was traveled by pioneers. They wanted land for farming and natural resources. Okay, so Oregon Trail, pioneers. And then if you have an orange colored pencil, you want to trace that route in orange. You guys, you're going to see these trails again, so make sure that you do this. You can see that that was one of the longer trails, going all the way from Independence, Missouri to Oregon. And some of you played the Oregon Trail game yesterday, so maybe you have some sense of some of those challenges that they faced. The next trail is the Mormon Trail. The Mormons are members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Everywhere they settled, the Mormons faced persecution because of their religious beliefs. Brigham Young became the leader in 1844 after Joseph Smith was killed. He decided to move their community to Utah, where they could be left alone to practice their faith in peace. Their difficult journey began in Illinois and ended near the Great Salt Lake. By 1877, Utah was home to over 125,000 Mormons. They lived in communities and they pioneered new farming methods in the dry region. So the Mormon Trail was traveled by Mormons. They wanted to practice their religion in peace and escape persecution. And you can see that trail that starts a little higher above Independence, Missouri. It starts in Illinois and it ends in Utah. And you can see that is outlined in purple. Please do that. Next, we have the Santa Fe Trail. The Santa Fe Trail opened in 1821 as a route for traders and businessmen to sell goods in Mexico. Traders loaded their wagons in Missouri, and they crossed plains, mountains, and deserts to sell their goods to neighboring Mexicans. The trips were risky with dust storms, illness, hostile Indians, and lack of water. But business was very good for those willing to brave the conditions. Unlike the other trails used by settlers, pioneers, farmers, and miners, the purpose of the Santa Fe Trail was trade. By 1860s, over $3.5 million in goods had been traded. The trail was replaced by the railroad in 1880. Okay, so all of the other trails so far, the Oregon Trail, the Mormon Trail, those were for settling purposes, people going to settle and make a new life. The Santa Fe Trail was for trade. Okay, they wanted to trade goods with Mexico and bring back stuff to sell. So you can see that that's outlined in brown. And this one you should remember because Mexico is further south, right? So this is the trail that's further south on the map. And lastly, we have the California Trail. The California Trail was a split from the Oregon Trail, and it was originally used by fur traders in the 1840s. Nearly 2,500 people had used the trail prior to 1848. But when gold was discovered in Sacramento in 1848, the trail was used by gold prospectors and miners hoping to strike it rich in the gold rush. Between 1849 and 1850, over 250,000 miners, prospectors, businessmen, and farmers traveled the California Trail. The traffic was so heavy in those 2 years, it helped make California the 31st state in 1850. And you could see where to outline that one, see how it breaks off from the Oregon Trail and it travels south into California. And this was traveled by 49ers, as their nickname was. 49ers, because 1849 and the gold rush, they wanted to find gold and start businesses. Okay, and this concludes your notes for Trails West, Notes 9 on page 13 of your packet.